Hey guys, we're going to do a video on middle-aged Vanheim. It's a pretty cool faction. It is the faction that Nick Knight used to win... oh wait, no, that was late age. Okay, never mind. It's like, yeah, the units are different. But yeah, no, I think I have lost the game to these guys. But it's pretty cool. It's basically like early age Vanheim, which has the choppy Einhairs, or Vanhairs. And it replaces them. So it used to be you got somebody like this Einhair who was sacred. It's called a Vanheir, and they're one of the scariest units in the game early. They're so scary. And it replaces it as a sacred unit with this, the Van. This unit basically existed in early age, but in early age it wasn't sacred. In early age, it was a recruit anywhere, and it was non-sacred. So these guys have kind of swapped. The Einhair is now recruit anywhere, and it's not sacred, but otherwise it's very similar in stats. So this is and that's honestly the main change. There's not a ton else that's changed. They also got the skin shifter, which we'll spend some time talking about. And so I don't know. I actually haven't put it up on the channel, but I've recorded before in early age Vanheim Pretender Design and National Overview. So in some ways, in my mind, I'm thinking about this like, okay, what's the delta change from vanilla Vanheim, or from early age Vanheim? But some of you might not know much about early age Vanheim, so we'll try to cover it. What Vanheim is they're a very stealthy nation. They are elves, so they're sneaking around. They have air magic and blood and earth and a bit of death. And they're very elusive. They're very kind of hard to fight and pin down. And they are very annoying to fight against because you never know how many units your enemy has because they could be sneaking them around. You never know where they're going to be. It's a little bit like playing Battleship. You know, I sunk your battleship. You're guessing where they are and you're trying to catch them. And a lot of times what that means is I have like a degree in killing elves by this point. I've developed like a sixth sense for anticipating where elves are going to go. But you end up misguessing a lot of times too, and to effectively kill elves, you usually have to deploy your mage corps. And that is because a lot of the elves are mostly immune to normal troops. And that's like the most frustrating thing, especially for new players. If you get attacked by elves and you're a new player, you're like, why don't my units do anything? Gosh darn it. And you don't know how to use your mages super well. You're like, dang it. So we've kind of talked about what they are. Let's talk about the units. We'll start, I think, with the units and we'll go to the commanders. So the Van, it is a sacred, stealthy cavalry unit. And it's very fast on the strategic map. And that is one of the most important things about, your sacreds. You only have so many of them and you want to use them effectively. You want them out fighting and killing your enemies, not sitting around collecting their paycheck. And being able to move quickly is one of the best ways to ensure that your sacreds are actually generating value for you, like getting rid of your enemies, taking land, etc. Not just sitting around collecting their paycheck, walking around. So the strategic mobility on these cav is extremely important. For their weapons, they have a light lance. And it is a link 3 weapon. That does mean that these guys will benefit from a larger bless where you can potentially get repel, which is kind of nice. We'll talk about whether they actually need it or want it or anything like that. They also have a hoof attack, which is pretty nice. This hoof attack, for those of you who don't know, most hoof attacks do not do any damage. Additional damage based on strength. So any like strength bonus you get, strength of giants from something from your bless, it's not going to translate to the hoof. The exception to this are non-mounted units like centaurs, which have a different hoof attack. And if they're stronger, their hoof does do more damage, which is kind of cool. It makes sense because the rider's stronger, not the horse. One of the things these guys suffer from is this light lance is actually not very strong. It's got a pretty decent charge attack. For the first damage, for the first strike, it's going to do a lot of damage. But after that, it's 3 damage on an 11 strength guy. And these guys are 65 gold for something that doesn't really hit very hard. But it's piercing damage, which means if you're trying to get through really high protection stuff, you can eventually get there. But you do run into some kind of funny scenarios, like if you imagine middle-aged Vanheim fighting middle-aged Ulm. Mostly they're not going to be able to get through really high protect. Like Ulm with Legions of Steel on them really will not take damage from these guys hardly at all, especially after the lance charge is over. But the Ulmites are probably going to have a really hard time hitting these guys, though if they have the flails that gets a bonus attack per shield and 2 attacks, they'll have a better shot. But, you know, you can end up with this weird slap fight where one side can't get through the protection and the other side can't get through the defense. But yeah, they have phenomenal defense. And they're mounted, so the harass penalty they get is also lower. And so they can be really hard. You know, like a normal 10 attack, it is so hard to hit something with 20 defense with 10 attack. It's like, we could look up the odds table. It's something like 5% or less. You know, it's really low when you're 10 below. We'll talk a bit more about the Bless, but the things to think about that they kind of are going to want, they're going to kind of want some more strength to get higher damage so that they can't get cheesed quite as easily. And a lot of times you want to protect these guys' weaknesses, which is, you know, the whole elf thing is they're really good against normal troops, especially chaffy normal troops. But they are not necessarily so good against mages. And so a lot of times, you know, the Rainbow Bless, you'll hear me calling it an elf bless, because a lot of times you're going to get the resistances and stuff on your bless that are going to make these guys not only very hard to kill with normal troops, but also very hard to kill with mages. I almost missed it. They come with glamour. And what glamour means is it means on the strategic map, even if you're not sneaking, they can't see you. Now they also have stealth, so you could sneak. If you sneak, you don't need glamour to not be seen. Glamour is there specifically for when you're not sneaking on the strategic map. It also gives you mirror image. And so basically, for the first hit, these guys are going to be, they're going to have a mirror image. Until they get hit, they're going to have a mirror image. And that's going to basically give you a 1 in 2 chance, or maybe I think it's 1 in 3 chance. Maybe it's 1 in 2. I can't remember what it is to start with. Of basically negating that attack. And so combined, there's a huge amount of synergy between glamour and having high defense. And that's one of the reasons that this Van is in some ways, like this Vanheim is in some ways a better Vanheim than Early Age. Because in Early Age, you have these Einherrs who are sacred. They're called Vanhairs. And they have glamour, but there's an anti-synergy because they go berserk, their defense becomes not good, and they tend to get hit reasonably quickly, and the glamour goes away. However, on these horse elves, glamour is much better. It's very, very good. I'll point out, too, there's interesting things you can combine this with, and some of which you can really only get from a bless or from items, one of which is Twist Fate. Twist Fate has a very good chance of ignoring an attack, or it's going to block your first attack. And what that's going to mean is you're going to keep, let's say it takes you 10 turns on average for your glamour to get broken. If you have Twist Fate on, it's going to take those 10 turns, your glamour will get broken, but really it's only going to break Twist Fate, it won't break glamour. With Twist Fate gets broken, you have another 10 turns on average until your glamour gets broken. So you've basically doubled the effectiveness of the glamour, which is pretty cool. And that's basically in addition to the fact that you also block the damage. So Twist Fate is very good, I think, on middle-aged Vanheim if you're thinking about blesses. And we'll pull up Dominions in a bit and make a sample pretender for them. But that is definitely something I would think about. It's also good against mages, but the downside is, you know, if like the mage just pops you with Frozen Heart or something, you know, okay, you've been popped with Frozen Heart. Your Twist Fate's gone, and it's not going to block the next one, but it will help, especially if you have a lot of these guys, to block the first mage attack, because it's going to, you know, defense and glamour will block most all the unit attacks. They also do not mind having their defense raised up a bit from the bless. So there's, on some level, these units don't need much. You can expand with them with very little in terms of a bless, and they can do their job with very little. However, they can kind of get countered by mages, and they're very expensive, so you don't want to lose them. So you kind of want to protect them that way. And they can get a lot of mileage out of any bless you do give them. So I think, and maybe I should have said this at the start, I think you can play a total scales Vanheim. I don't think, I mean, maybe you want like not the most greedy god, like you want to have something maybe, like you could do a Dormant Titan with hardly any paths and good scales. Or you could even go full scales Imprisoned, right? And then have some cool god that comes out later. And I think that's totally viable. Like a lot of your units don't need a bless. But a lot of your units get a lot of mileage out of a bless. And so that's kind of a decision for you to make. But anyway, that is the Van. They're a very, very good unit. Very good unit. And I think one of the reasons I got mixed up talking about the tournament game is because that's one of the things that late age Midgard gets is they basically keep these Vans. Yeah, you can see it's the same unit. And Nick Knight used these Vans to just demolish some player. I think he had like a +6 defense bless. And with +6 defense, these guys are so hard to hit. With Glamour, it's like almost impossible. So it's kind of cool. So that's the Van. The rest of the units, let's talk about the other Sacred first, which is the Valkyrie. And you can get these in multiple ways. You can pay for them, and you have a Valkyrie. They're nice because they're flying, and they have Spirit Sight built into the chassis, unlike these guys. So if you're fighting in some situation where that Spirit Sight's going to be important, these are your men, or these are your women. I forget they're female. But yeah, Sacred, Glamour, they're not mounted, so they have high defense, but a lot of that is from the shield. But they will kind of get harassed down. But with Glamour, they'll last a pretty good while, but they're not going to... I mean, the Vans can really face tank infantry. Like, they're just so hard to hit. These guys are not quite like that, but they're very good at going and hitting the back line of an enemy, and maybe you're going to go, interrupt a thug's script. Maybe you're going to pick off mages. Maybe they're skelly spamming. And if you send these guys to the back, this was something that happened in the tournament. The skelly spam always are on attack closest. So instead of the skeletons running forward and meeting your horsies, they just cluster around these Valkyrie, which have hit them in the back. It's very annoying when you're the one skelly spamming. But that's these guys. You can also summon them in combat. And you spend 1 air gem, but you need one of your air death randoms, which we'll talk about how to get those later. But it's a cap-only mage, basically. But he can spend 1 air gem and summon 7. And because it only costs 1 air gem, and it's air 3 to cast, and these guys are all air 3 mages, if you do an air gem dump, you can summon a rather absurd amount of Valkyries in combat. It's a little crazy. Yeah, it's pretty nuts. And you can combine that with like a turn 5 Divine Blessing on either your Prophet or some people you've communioned up to be Holy 3 and get them all blessed. But yeah, you can do some pretty cool things. I mean, a lot of playing an elf is like, forces can appear from nowhere. And the fact that you can summon these Valkyries in combat kind of amplifies that. Like a few mages all of a sudden can potentially make 30 of these dudes. And that can be a lot. I mean, and you can scale this up as many death randoms as you find. But yeah, I mean, I imagine with 5 air gems, you would make an absurd number of Valkyries. It's probably going to want you to do 2, 2, and then 1. So you would probably get 21 Valkyries per death random for the cost of 5 gems. And it's a combat only. They disappear afterwards. But in an important combat, that can totally turn it. So that is the Valkyrie. They don't have Fly and Storm. That's worth pointing out, because it's kind of their chief competition. It's a conjuration spell if you summon them in combat, is air elementals. And air elementals fly in storms. These guys don't. So that's something to think about. Okay, and then now we're going to go to the Einherr. So the Einherr, this guy, he is 25 gold, 12 hit points, 15 protection, of which 0 is natural. So it's all from his armor. Has 5 encumbrance, but his effective encumbrance is going to go basically up to 8 once he goes berserk. And he has 2 weapons, a 6 damage broadsword and an 8 damage axe. But once he goes, an 11 attack. And so for the broadsword, it's going to be 11, and for the axe, it's going to be 10. That's without any experience stars. Now, once he goes berserk, this is going to become a 16 and a 15 damage attack, or a 15 attack. A 16 attack and a 15 attack thing. And the damage that these things do, so this guy right now is 6 plus 12, that's 18. And this is 8 plus 12, that's 20. So it's 18 and 20. That's going to jump up to 23 and 25. And you have to imagine there's 3 of these guys a tile. So you're getting 6 super high damage attacks per tile. These guys are excellent. They're absolutely excellent. Their downsides are they don't have much defense. And their protection is good, but it's not great, and they don't have shields. So they will kind of get picked apart by crossbows, which are starting to come out in the Middle Age. And they can potentially be abused by a big heavy lance charge or something like that. But they are very, very, very killy. And especially you start thinking you throw Strength of Giants on them or something like that. They're very, very, very killy. These guys really like a buff. Once you throw, and we don't have nature mages, right? But you can finagle your way into getting them. And once you throw wooden warriors on these guys, they start getting really strong. This protection, once they go berserk, is going to jump up because berserk is also going to increase your protection. And then you throw legions of steel on them, and they start becoming very, very, very scary. Now, they don't have magic weapons, and that's something also I should mention we're missing on the nation as a whole. We don't really have any magic weapons. Anyway, that is the Einherr. The Skin Shifter is a kind of interesting unit. So not much protection, just has the furs, has a huge greatsword, right? Which is going to do 9 damage, but it's two-handed. It's going to get a bonus from the strength. We'd have to look at it, but it looks like it's going to be like 24, 25 damage is my guess when we add it all up. But yeah, it's a big stinking greatsword, and he has regen 10. The thing is with 13 HP and only 6 protection, the regen in this form isn't going to matter a ton unless you can get buffs on these guys. Because without buffs, they still die really fast, right? But when they die in their first form, they will go to their second form. And in their second form, they get 3 attacks. However, their strength is not super high, so these are going to be like 3 reasonably low damage attacks. And they still have garbage protection, and they only have 20 hit points. So here's my thing on these guys. I don't think they seem, okay, regen, they would be great for expansion. I'm guessing, and I haven't actually done expansion testing with them. I'm guessing these guys would actually be kind of lousy for expansion. You're probably going to have way more attrition than you would think. Even though it's a reasonably big HP pool, and even though you have regen, that just the low protection, in the not super high base HP pool, I'm pretty sure they just get overwhelmed. However, once you start getting buffs on them, that built-in regen can be real nice. And if you get strength bonuses on them, the greatsword, it really likes having more strength. And these claw attacks, all of a sudden we start having 3 higher damage claw attacks, and bite attacks. They get very killy. And you can make these everywhere. I don't think these guys are cap only. No, they're not. So, that's pretty cool. Put this guy back where he was. And that's it for the units that we're going to talk about. There's other ones, but I don't want to dilute the thing by talking about all the units. These are the important ones. You have the flying attack rear, you have the vans, these are both sacred, and then you have your produce everywhere units, which are excellent. Well, I guess we probably do need to talk about some of the other ones. You have other guys you can get. They're cheap, and they're mostly useful, in my opinion, as siege chaff, which is something you definitely need. All right, so just know, you have these guys, they have javelins. It's possible they're very important in the army, but they're basically just, you don't need me to tell you, because you can click on the unit and look for yourself. But they're siege chaff with javelins, all right? There's slightly better versions that don't have javelins. I don't know. We're not going to do the thing where we look at all the units, which are basically the same, and talk about them. Okay, on to the commanders. So, the Vanadrad. This is your cap-only mage. It's the exact same as Early Age Vanheim. It gets a path in either air, earth, death, or blood. The air ones are super important because Air 4 is a very rare path in the game, and it allows you to do turn 1 Fog Warriors, which is really good. So the air ones are really nice, and they're also going to be your best battle caster in terms of just being able to drop evocations or lots of elementals. They're really strong. The earth ones are probably going to be your best thugs because they can buff them. They can also buff a buddy if you send them in pairs. They are really good. The earth mages are great. And the death ones are going to be some of your best support mages. They're going to be doing Wailing Winds. But, you know, a lot of these things you have to be, like the things we're going to talk about for the support magic, you have to be like Death 3. The way to do this is you combine them in a Sabbath. And a Sabbath is basically like a communion, but you're using blood. And using that, you can get these guys without any gear up to kind of arbitrarily high levels of death. And you can cast Wailing Winds or, whatchamacallit? Winds of Death, those kind of things. You could also, if you want to, cast like more normal big death magic like Life After Death or Darkness or stuff like that. So those are all options for you too. But you're not going to have, you know, they're slow to recruit. They come out of your capital. You're not going to have a ton of them. And the death randoms are 1 in 4. So you're only probably going to be getting, it's like 1 in 8 turns you'll be getting them. So you'll get like 1.5 of the death randoms on average a year. It's not a lot, right? One thing you may want to think about is twice-borning them. Put a skull staff on the death ones and twice-born them, because you really do not want them to die. And if they die, you would really love to have them back to have a second go at it. Definitely a very fine use of your death gems is twice-borning your death randoms. The blood ones, I think, are your least interesting ones. Because blood is kind of like whatever. You can just empower in blood if you need to get it up. And you can also jump in Sabbaths. What I will say about the blood ones is being blood 2 is very nice if you're going to be a Sabbath master in Drain. Right? So if you've taken Drain scales and you become a Sabbath master, it will knock your ass out and you'll be asleep for the first few turns if you're only a blood 1 mage. Blood 2 mages, not so much. So that's a good use for the blood ones, is just to be fast Sabbath leaders in Drain. And it's something to think about if you take Drain with this nation. It's going to make Sabbathing a lot more difficult. All right, next up, the Van Jarl. Now, the Van Jarl is pretty interesting. So we're going to talk about the Van Jarl and the Van Hers at the same time. These are your 2 thugs. The Cat Mage is a little too expensive and fancy to use as a thug most of the time, unless you're using him with the Earth Path. And then it's like, okay, we're going to do some heavy lifting with the Earth randoms. These guys are more like your dollar store thugs. You get them from every fort. They're only, you know, they're not slow to recruit. You get a ton of them. There's some differences in the weapon loadout that are actually significant. These Van Herses have a lance, and this guy has a broadsword. What this will actually end up meaning is the Van Jarl, without another kind of weapon, will end up running into enemy combat, like when he's raiding PD. He'll get repelled, it will get rid of his glamour, and then he'll proceed to usually die, often getting repelled a lot. And the reason for that is if you get repelled, this is like I'm talking about a naked Van Jarl, right? If you get repelled a lot, I mean, if you get surrounded, your defense skill is going to drop. And these guys have really high defense skill, but as this defense skill starts to drop a lot, they're going to start getting repelled more. And this will happen very quickly within like 1 to 2 turns of combat. So anyway, once this goes down and they start getting repelled, they're not going to be able to get any swords off because their damn defense is so low. There's some ways around this. One is having 2 of these per tile, so you're distributing the harassment penalty out, and then you wouldn't necessarily need to have another weapon in place. And the other option is to give them the most classic elf weapon ever, the Vine Shield, which is going to entangle units that surround it and therefore keep them from harassing these guys. There's a very good reason the Vine Shield is super common on elves, and it is to preserve that super high defense, which otherwise would get harassed away. So, the Van Jarl. He is... let's take a look at these stats real quick. They're very similar. This guy has bonus 2 defense, And I think a lot of that is actually from, is it just higher base? 16, 14? Yeah, it's 2 higher base, and then I think he has better armor or something like that. I'm not sure. He's got... Anyway, it's a net 3 higher defense. Let's see. 3 mounted, 1 weapon. It's the weapon. Yeah. Okay, this guy, the broadsword gives it +1 defense. The light lance doesn't. But two bonus base defense. Significant. The attack skill, I think, is the same. Strength is a little bit better. HP, 1 better. Protection is the same. MR, 1 better. Morale, 1 better. Yet if you look at the gold cost, this guy's almost twice the cost. And most of what you're paying for here is the better magic paths. You get access to blood, and you get access to Air 2. Now, the biggest difference about this is that these guys can magic phase attack. These can all do cloud trapeze, which means you can move a veritable army of these guys to attack your enemy. And with magic phase attacks, a lot of times you can't dodge them. So they actually do, they're very good at forcing particular fights. And you can use them either as thugs or as mages when you magic phase in. So you could, for instance, magic phase in 10 Van Jarls and have them each summon 2 air elementals, which would cost them 4 gems. Be very expensive. I forget, is Cloud Trapeze 2 or 3 gems? Let's take a look. Cloud Trapeze. 3 gems. So it would be 7 gems per to do that. And that's pretty expensive now, guys. Because it, like 7 times 10 would be about 70 gems. But for about 70 gems, you could send in, approximately 10 of these guys, and they could each summon air elementals, which would be very big and very scary. And that can delete a lot of armies, which, 70 gems is expensive, but deleting an enemy army, sometimes that's priceless. But yeah, and you can use them as thugs. They're just very versatile. They can also do storm power in combat if you put up a storm, and then they can all spam out Thunderstrike. And they have a blood path, which is really useful because you can do Thunderstrike times 4 and then reinvigoration. And then bada bing, bada boom. Or you can do it, I forget, let's look at the Thunderstrike fatigue cost too. Do we not have that? Thunderstrike. I think it's 20. Oh, it's 50, but Air 3. Yeah, so you could do Thunderstrike, reinvigoration, Thunderstrike. If you're in Magic 3, maybe you do it a little different. But anyway, yeah, these guys are going to be able to do a lot of things. Magic phase thugging. They can also jump in communions to be arbitrarily high. So you can, if you don't have the research for Storm, or you don't want to put Storm up, but you still want to get these guys up to Thunderstrike, they can do that as part of a communion with Blood Slaves. So that is a thing you can do. They're very versatile. Very versatile. But they're pretty expensive, 275. And then most of the time, when I see these guys in games, people are putting a lot of gear on them. A lot of times I have like 30 gems of gear. And, killing a 275 gold unit is nice, but killing a 275 gold unit with 30 gems of gear on it, ooh, that feels real good. That feels super good. So, let's look at the Van Hurst in comparison. In comparison, the Van Hurst, half the cost, doesn't have Air 2, so that means he cannot do Magic Phase movement. And Air 1 doesn't actually give him very much. It gives him, we'll talk about what the Air 2 can do. The Air 2 can do Mist Form, right? That's something new that an Air 2 can do that an Air 1 can't. And Air 1, though, can do Air Shield, which is actually very nice for raiding, since a lot of raiding effectively means dealing with javelins and arrows. And one of the things we're weak against, as you will struggle to know, or which you will certainly notice when you're doing expansion with these Vans, is crossbow provinces and provinces with lots and lots of archers actually do very well against Vans, even if they have very high defense. And that's because the defense doesn't matter, the glamour doesn't matter when you're talking about kind of volume of fire from a bunch of archers. So being able to air shield is very nice on a thug. And importantly, these guys also have a light lance. And what this means is they're not going to get repelled. So as a naked, in melee thug chassis, oftentimes these guys are better than Van Jarls. And that has to do with the fact they have a light lance instead of a broadsword. They're not going to get repelled. They're not going to get their glamour stripped off. That being said, often one of these guys will not be super successful when raiding alone. However, two of these guys in a pair, especially with a moderate bless, will disrespect very large amounts of PD. That's just kind of how it works. And if you want to be extra generous with them, you have them do mist form by giving them an air gem. And that can be pretty darn cheap. One other thing Van Jarls can do is you can do shockwave thugging with them, which if you don't know what that is, go check out my video on Calum, and you can see me shockwave thug until I'm blue in the face. That's something these guys can do well. But yeah, that's basically your thug options. Now we have another unit, and it's pretty important. It is the dwarf. And it is the Dwarven Smith. And the Dwarven Smith is a very good dwarf. And he gets 2 earth, and then he gets a random in fire, air, earth, or death. And the death is very important because we're also a Master Smith 1. And that means even though he's only a death 1, and this is something it's very easy to forget about, is even though he's only death 1, he can make skull staffs, which make you death 2, which means you could forge death 3 things if you wanted to. There's not a lot of death 3 things to forge, but you follow. The earth 3s can forge earth 4 stuff. Kind of cool. The air 2s can forge air 2 stuff. Sadly, it's going to be pretty tough to get these guys all the way up, where they could do like the air booster items. But fortunately, the Vanadrots, the air 4s can do an air booster. Let's see if we can do Staff of Elemental Mastery with these guys. I can't remember if I've checked. So the air random, you put on an air hat, they become air 3, effectively, and earth 3. So they're basically earth 3, air 3, effectively, with just the hat on. And then you put on earth boots, and they become earth 4. And then you just need one more booster. And this guy with the air hat can make the Bag of Wind, and that makes him, bada boom, that makes him air 5, so he can do the Bag of Wind. You put the Bag of Wind on this guy in conjunction with the other gear, and you're now earth 4, air 4. Why does that matter? Because that's how you make the Staff of Elemental Mastery. And once you have that, you could put that on, and then you would be 5 in each of those, which is enough to summon Elemental Royalty. But you could do the Earth Elemental Royalty, you could do on this guy pretty easily by empowering him in blood and doing bloodstones. But anyway, it also is going to let you boost up higher in water and in fire, because we do also have some fire access. Will be fire 1. You have a small chance of getting the fire death cross path here too. It's pretty small. Probably won't happen, but if you do, that's another fire booster. But yeah, actually, all you need is that Staff of Elemental Mastery, and then these Dwarven Smiths, the fire randoms, they can put that on. They're going to effectively be... Oh, no. I was going to think you need it for summoning, because you need to get the Fire Mage. You might have to empower the guy once, and then put the Staff Elemental Mastery on. Then you can forge or get a Flame Spirit, and the Flame Spirit with this with the staff can do the Fire Hat, and then you're off to the races. So anyway, Dwarven Smith, he does not get a Forge bonus, but he gets the Master Smith. Importantly, this is your only kind of reliable, decent Earth access. And a lot of times we were talking about, this troop would be good with buffs, or this one would be good with buffs. Well, those buffs a lot of times are going to be coming from the Dwarven Smith. The problem, though, is they're not stealthy and they're slow. So what I would recommend with these guys is giving them boots of the messenger if they're going to go with your army, and that way they can kind of follow around at a bit of a clip. Because I don't know, I always am like moving them out late and having them catch up with an army or something like that. That being said, if you get them deployed at the right time, they can keep up kind of almost, depending on the movement with a 9 hair. But I do like putting Boots of the Messenger on these guys. But, they can do... they can do so many things. Just Strength of Giants and Legions of Steel is great. But they can certainly do more than that. And later in the game, you can do big earth magic with them. The other nice thing is they're not sacred, so if you want to eke out an extra troop van production, You can be making dwarf smiths, get an extra van, but if you're making the sacreds, you're not going to be getting them. So anyway, I think that's that. I mean, you can also do some kind of interesting things with this. It's maybe worth pointing out for the cross paths. You can do Scutata Volturnus, where you get the lightning shield. You can do Shade Mail with Earth Death. There's a bunch of Fire Earth stuff you can do, like Firebrands and things like that. But that's it. We've been through the units now. So let's do some kind of thoughts. I don't want to call them closing thoughts, but wrapping up thoughts on the nation. And then we're going to go to kind of do Pretender design real quick. Path variety, not super great, but okay. A lot of stealthy things. Very, very good against normal, like, PD type of troops. Actually have very good late game things you can do with morale plays with the Vanadrats. Combined with the fact that you have Berserkers. So you're going to be very good on the morale play front, because you can set your own Berserkers Berserk, so you're not very vulnerable, and you can do Blood Rain and whatchamacallit, Wailing Winds. It's not as trivial for you to do as other nations, because you have to be like organized and doing Sabbath communions and stuff, but you can totally do it. You get great evocation stuff with Storm, Summon Storm Power, Thunderstrike. You also can do a lot of air elementals, but a lot of your stuff is kind of pricey, So that's the thing. You're kind of paying for it. So, Kalem is going to be able to do more Thunderstrikes per turn cheaper than you. So you're not going to be like the Thunderstrike god, but, you're stealthy. Kalem's not. You have way better, ground units than Kalem in a way. So anyway, it's a bit of a yin and a yang to this, as with anything. But they have a lot of really good things that, I mean, like these scales units are really good in the late game. They're really good depending on what you're fighting. And then the Sacreds can be super nice too. So they have a lot of things. I think that, because I've played Vanheim before in the early age, I haven't played them in middle age. In my opinion, they are very strong early. In my opinion, you want to be very aggressive with them. Like, have a good first war before people get too much research online. A lot of times there's like a little bit of a middle game slump where you're not weak, but you've got timings you're waiting for, and maybe you want to get a bit of a blood economy going. Like, there's usually a lot of things you kind of want to do in the mid game to really get ready for your next hard war. That's my feeling. I know people may disagree with that. And it's not like a big middle game slump, but I feel like it's a little middle game slump. And then in the late game, once they get some of the higher tier evocation stuff, once they start having blood online, which, by the way, their blood is very expensive, but, because you're blood hunting with Van Jarls. But once they have some blood online, you can get Storm Demons, you can do morale plays, you can do battlefield wipes with air. You have big Earth Mages to do Army of Golden stuff. There's a lot of really cool stuff you can do in the late game, too. So it's kind of cool. I feel like, they have like a really strong early game, and then they don't get worse in the mid game. They just don't get a lot better compared to other nations. And then their late game's pretty good. The problem with Vanheim in the Middle Age is that they're in the Middle Age. And the Middle Age has some of the most hard to deal with bullshit that there is in the game. You got to deal with Scalaria, maybe. You got to deal with all the underwater factions, because there's so many underwater nations there. You could have Yis. You have Atlantis and Relay, which are really good. You have Airmore. You have Nazca. There's just so many strong nations in the Middle Age that I don't think they really hold a top spot. And while elf rushes can be really hard to deal with, these things, especially if you're smart about it, like the way you would deal with a rush of this is probably have a ton of archers and a bunch of chaff, or stuff with really high protection, or a god. And it doesn't mean like, oh, I've checkmated them because I did any of those things, but like you can deal with this. There's some other things like early age Vanheim with the Vanheers. There's certain types of things that just those Vanheers are gonna murder you. And these are really strong, but I don't think they're like the same tier level of they're going to be almost impossible to counter until you have magic that the Vanheers are. but you get to make Einheers at every fort. So I don't know. I like this nation a lot. Let's go ahead and pull up a test game real quick, and we'll do a pretender. So first, let's make a pretender god for Vanheim. And there's a few things. A fountain would have actually been really good. Not the blood fountain, but the other one. Let's see. Nature. Region actually is not bad on these thugs, because with Mist Form, if they don't have magic weapons, it's very good at dealing with that chip damage. So you could totally do a Region Bless. It doesn't stack super well with like the glamour stuff, because once your glamour pops, you're often going to be taking a fair amount of damage. But I don't think it's actually horrible. And you don't have nature as a path, so it's really enticing to get that on your god. Astral Twist Fate would be good. I don't know what we would do with Death. Death would actually be kind of interesting for Stygian Flesh, but you're already kind of having a magic weapons vulnerability, so I don't know if I would want to double down on that. Nature and Earth. Nature, Earth, and... Nature, Air, and Fire. Nature, Astral, Earth. Let's see. Nature, Astral, Earth. Yeah, the Monolith could probably be good. You kind of need some strength. We could do Twist Fate. I don't know what you'd use the nature for. Probably like poison resistance. This would totally be a candidate. The thing I kind of want to test, and maybe we'll just take it on a rainbow so I don't have to think about it, because honestly, guys, the most likely thing you're probably going to want to do is some brain dead imprisoned rainbow build. Like, oh, instead of having to make decisions, we'll just get everything. Let's get a little air, you know. You could get swiftness, but I think playing an air nation, there's a lot of value to getting. This is not as good early game, but it's so good in the late game. We'll just get, you know, some defense. We'll get a little bit of cold resistance, because I don't think... It's one of the things about the elves. A lot of times they prefer cold, but they don't do well on cold. They actually need a bit of cold resistance. We could do the attack. We don't really... I don't think we're going to worry about that. We would not mind having a bit of strength, though. We could do like this. I'm going to go ahead and go imprisoned. But you get some attack skill, or you could get fire resistance. Fire resistance, actually, you kind of need. And the reason you kind of need it is because if you run into fire elementals with your vans, the hoof attack is going to get wrecked on the fire shield. So you kind of do need that. Now, it would be cool if I couldn't get everything, but fortunately I can. Oh god, we have so many design points left. We're going to need a fair amount. Let me see what our... how much these guys cost. 16 resources, 46 recruitment. The fact they're low in resources means we can get a lot of them at the beginning, which means we should probably be going kind of high dominion. And it means I probably shouldn't tank this, but I probably can tank this. And we'll go cold 3. Lean into that cold preference. We might go order 1. And I've still got a few points to spend. Let's see if I can put 3 on each of these. 4 on this one. It's nice having magic weapons, so we'll get that. You could also get MR if you want to. I don't think you need magic weapons. MR is certainly better on your thugs. So it kind of depends what you're favoring here. But you can go something like this. We'll get a bit of... we'll end up having Storm Demons later. I don't think we would actually mind having a bit of Undead Command. Lead some of them around. And then... poison resistance, because that is how we roll. I'd probably go with resilient. All right, and this is the... We are just going to do some kind of cancerous build. Don't mind us build. I hate showing you guys rainbow blesses for elves. I really do. Somehow, I don't know what it is, but somehow it just wears at my soul. Do I want to do this? Let me see. It'd be nice to have magic 1 so I could Sabbath easier. And it'd help a bit with research. I think we do this. A mountain survival might not be horrible. Oh, nope, can't get that. I don't think we're going to be able to have a nice clean coming out. I hate leaving 28 points on the table. But anyway, I think this is what we're stuck with. Seems okay to me. And we haven't balanced the scales because you can tell I haven't thought a ton about it. But I know generally what I want. Completely balanced. Okay. The Thoughtless Imprisoned Rainbow build. And, okay, I've got debug mod on. We're going to play this on a big map. I'm just going to show you a little bit about expansion. We're not going to do a full expansion, but I just want to show you guys some things. Okay, Vanheim. I'll make this easy. I don't really want to see him. Okay. Completely balanced. Let's go. Now, like I had said, there's other cool things you can do with them, maybe like Twist Fate. But with the way everything is kind of done right now, I think you're going to often be much better off. Oh, wait, shit. This is going to cheat me on Capper. We can't really see how many you would be able to get. So this will kind of be cheating. We'll assume you could only get like 5 or something. I don't know. This cheating, but whatever. We'll just show you kind of what expansion would look like. And then let's assume this turn we could get this. You probably wouldn't be able to get, you'd probably only be able to get like 3. But we'll do this. We'll put this guy in front. And the reason you might be able to get 5 your first turn of these, it would about bleed you of all your money, is that they cost very little resources. So I'm actually suspicious you could. Unfortunately, it looks like all these guys have javelins. So we'll do Divine Blessing and advance and cast spells. And we'll make a few more debug senseis. But these guys, I just want to show you how immune these guys are to normal things. Like, look at these stats. 23 defense. Isn't it, it's a 4 bonus to defense? Yeah. And then with the Blood Surge, they're reasonably killing now with 19. Without the Blood Surge, it's a little low on the damage. But, and Blood Surge isn't actually good against the things that kind of hardcore own these guys, like a super combatant. So that's something to kind of deal with. All right. Did we lose anything? Oh, we lost 3 guys. So, and they actually don't even really care that much. Heavy cav actually is not as big of a problem for them as you would think. This is a lot of heavy cav. They may not succeed there, but the way you do this, you do Blessing twice, normally Air Shield and then Blessing again. And then attack closest. We'll make this control 1. And you just mindlessly plow this into stuff. You have to be a little careful about large amounts of slingers, though. So, okay, we've got this guy. We might be able to get 4. And this guy, the thugs, get a little better defense. Okay, he's not harassed now. Okay, 23. That's fine. Okay, don't lose anything. Oh, here we actually get wrecked. Okay, there's 15 heavy cav. That's a lot. But you'll see, I'm just showing this to you. This isn't how we do it in a game. But these guys should hold up for a good long... Okay, yeah, they got HP routed and then they died in the retreat. These heavy cav can't actually hurt them. So you actually don't really... And they're going to lose now because they've got the penalty for retreat. But you can see they held up phenomenally well. And I probably could have positioned them where the heavy cav hit them. But these guys just disrespect normal kinds of units. It's a little ridiculous. Now, what I want to show you is, we're going to get a couple more Vanheim. I'm just going to show you the most budget, stupid little thing you can do with these guys. And you're not risking much. You're not risking any gems when you do this. We're going to have one guy do Blessing and then Air Shield and attack closest. Okay, and the other guy, because we're only going to have... We don't want him to bless. Charged body might not actually be good. Mirror image we already have. There's not really much else to do. You know what we could do? I think we'll just hold a turn. Oh, but the important thing with this is it's really important you want them to be in the same tile. So we'll do this. And we actually... Well, who are we going into? Heavy cav. I think we're actually going to lose that. And y'all will laugh at me if we do that. So I think we're actually going to go... We'll go here. I'm pretty sure this will work. The one kind of flaw in this is we don't have any protection. They really would like a little bit of protection, like a bark skin amulet. Oh, Tanglevine's going to kill him. Oh. Low rip. That's one thing the PD gets that I don't think you are going to get. Yeah, you're not often going to have a Tanglevine commander when you're raiding PD. But yeah, okay, that was something I didn't consider. Here, let's get a couple more of them. But that's like the thing with elves. Like, oh, elves are great, because they would have not given a shit about any of those troops. And then one mage fucks it all up for them. And there's good things to think about, like, for when you're fighting elves. Because that's how you kill them. See, lance charges, they don't care. Okay, this guy got hit. And yeah, wouldn't recommend sending them into heavy cav. So these weren't really great options. I'm making it look like... we're going to start this again. Let me show you what actual PD is like, because the PD is not going to have the mage. And I'm making it look like this. But I think this is an important thing, because like when you're playing elves, that will happen to you. We're like, God, elves suck. How would other people think they're broken? Because, like, it just takes one little thing, and then your stupid elves all die to something silly. We'll do... Who would be classic? We'll do Ulm. Okay. Wait, whoops. So what we're going to do, we're going to have Ulm come in and take this. Vanheim, we're going to go ahead and get 2 of you. Okay. And again, I'm trying to show you guys interesting low-budget ways to thug. Obviously, we can do the Frostbrand stuff, okay? Obviously. Oh, you know what we didn't do? Is we didn't do Mistform. Oh, that was why. I knew I was going to show y'all something. Oh wait, Air Shield, Mistform. Yeah, they can. We'll stress test it with both of these. I was like, why is this working so poorly? Because I was dumb. That's why. Okay. And on Ulm's side, we are going to be like a normal player who's maybe not going to put any more than 15 here. Right, and this is why people hate elves. Because they don't give a shit about your PD. That's why. Now, we'll try this again, but now with no gems. We'll do 15. And I think it will still work. But there's a chance that it won't. Let's switch to getting Van Jarls. Okay. Okay, we took some damage here. We probably got an affliction. Yeah, we're down to 10. Okay, we didn't get an affliction. But you can see it was a little dicey. Whereas if we had Mist Form on, there was like no chance. But this is a fair, like 15 PD is more than people are normally going to put in. So that is basic super budget rating with the elves. But as we saw, one nature mage on advancing cast that cast Tango Vines can fuck you up. And that could be like a shaman, like we saw. Okay, we'll pull you guys back. Now, if we were to just put... I think finding water mages is really important just to get cheap frost brands, because it really is great at helping you do better what you already do, which is killing PD. And it's going to mean you don't have to sit there that long. Like, 2 guys with only... Like, if I only put 1 item on a Van Hurst, it would probably be a frost brand. I wouldn't bother with armor or anything like that, just a frost brand. And it's a super low investment, and it's much more likely to chew through thugs or PD, but it can still get wrecked by mages, but so can 30 gem dudes. So, one second, we'll show you now the deluxe version. Where's Ulm? Okay, the deluxe version for handling very large amounts of troops. Okay. This is not going to be surprising to those of you who have seen elf thugs before, but this is not innovative. This is not smart. You don't get any pats on the back for having come up with this or using this in your games. You just get shamefully looked at for doing an elf thug. Yet another elf thug. And then, you know, you put whatever miscellaneous things on you're looking to, like, protect you from having any fear of death. Okay, let's do more, and I'll just show you how dumb the generic... This is why it's popular. Because I think this will work. Now, there's a chance Mist Form pops here, and we end up being in a bit of trouble. You know, I actually think... The region... We're going to have a little bit of a fatigue issue, though. That's the one thing I'm worried about. It may be better... This will be more expensive, but we're doing deluxe. Oh, no, we have this on. Oh, no, we're going to be fatigue neutral. We cool. All right, so... Yeah, it's not really any different a script. All right, that's basically the same thing. We might have actually lost it. That battle didn't go very long. We did it. It is a huge PD dump. Oh, and they do have these guys with these big fucking battle axes. But the question is, can they hit through 20-something defense? There's a lot of crossbows. If our Vine Shield dies, we die. We're taking a fair bit of damage. Okay. Yeah. So this is why elves are stupid. 250 person normal troops, an elf thug with 30-something gems of gear. They don't care. So that's why you do it. That being said, we're going to do this again. And this will hopefully help you understand a little bit about Zen and the art of dealing with fucking elves. Where's a... No, I don't want this guy. This guy. Okay. Okay. I'm going to bring you back. And we'll do 15, which is a reasonable low commitment amount to make for elves. And we're going to send 2 guys in, and they are going to have different scripts. This guy is going to do Summon Earth Power, Iron Skin, Advance and Cast Spells. Right? And this guy, also going to be up at the front, so if they're on Flying Attack Rear, it probably doesn't hit him. Is going to do Phoenix Power, and then Fire Elemental times this. And this is how you deal with goddamn elves, okay? Oh, I'm sending in a 30 gem elf thug. Let's see if it works. It may still work. Ulm is not really known for their great magics. We could design a counter thug probably. Now he has 10 fire resistance, so this is not really doing a lot of damage with the fire elemental. A lot of times you'll find elves with just the 5 fire resistance. Doesn't look like we quite did it there. Does not look like we quite did it. He does have heroic toughness, though. So that's not really your normal elf. It's like a super elf. Okay, we'll kill it real quick, because this elf clearly needs to die. We'll do it with a Black Lord. Because you can design counter elf thugs. Okay, so what gear are we going to do? We'll do Ulmish gear for killing elves. Which, I think in this case, we mostly need high attack. Attack 2, attack 2. This would be like super bougie, and Ulm doesn't make things that don't cost 1 gem. Do we, let's see what else Ulm could make. Zen and the Art of Killing Elves. I think, I didn't want to say it, but I think Stingers are still probably the best. So I think we're going to do 2 guys with Stingers. And then we're going to make... Wait, did I? Okay. And then we're going to make Burning Pearls. And then we're going to make... what else? This so we hit harder? I think there's a little... Yeah, okay. Here we go. And we'll take this back. Okay, 15 PD. And we're going to take these guys and go over here. And we're going to try to kill some elves. Just another day in the office, killing elves. The fire thing could have worked. I don't know what I would do differently. It might have just needed to have been more support, or maybe 3 mages. But having 20 protection and 10 fire resistance makes elves very resistant to fire elementals. And as Ulm, we don't have other options. As other nations, you could make better, different elementals, and you would probably do fine. Like earth elementals, we could do... Earth elementals would have been way superior to fire elementals there, actually. We'll do that again after this. I think a lot of... And I think it's fitting, like I'm showing you guys how to kill elves, but I think it's actually very fitting for an elf video. Because a lot of being good with an elf, and like being good as an elf is... Like if you watch this video and you internalize everything, and you go to like a new player lobby and you murder people with elves... Shame on you a little bit. Being good with I mean, not really. Go do it. Have fun. But being good with an elf is being good against good players with elves. And good players with elves are going to figure out ways to fuck you. And it's important you know those ways so you don't get fucked. If that makes sense. Okay, so this is going to be the script for these guys. And Holmes is going to do this. He's going to do Summon Earth Power, Iron Skin, Iron Warriors, Strength of Giants. Oh, I need to get, almost more important, I need Iron Will. Strength of Giants. Do I have, I think actually we're going to do Legions of Steel. That way they actually can't get hit. I don't know, I think we're going to skip this too. We'll do Strength of Giants at the end if I can. Because this should all target him. And then advance and cast spells. I think this will work. And then we'll send in the Super Elf. The guy with 1,000,000 HP. 29. Oh, are you moving this guy out? Okay. Can we kill? I will also say, it's playing a lot of times I come up with these things like, oh, we'll kill him with this. It doesn't fucking work. Alright, these guys are very angry. They hate elves. They hate elves a lot. Okay, he's just finished clearing out this, and he thinks, oh, we've killed the elves. Nope, doesn't work. Stupid vine show. That's why we tried to get Iron Will on them. They really had bad MR, though. 31 defense. Oh my god, that's so many. Oh yeah, we're not even close to hitting him. Okay, let's try this again. I think our guys lived. Okay, let's go back and... Wait, whoops. This is very quickly going off topics. Some of you've probably clicked off, but some of you were probably entertained. What we're going to do, we're going to bring 2 guys here. And Vanheim. Let's have you pull the super elf back. And I'll go ahead and do 15 again. Now we've got 2, and we're going to change this. So let me put this on 1. We're actually going to have this guy do Iron Will. And this. And then advance and cast spells. Actually, let's make a lab here too. And we're going to do an Earth Elemental on this guy too. So he's going to do this, Iron Warriors this, and then he's going to do summon an Earth Elemental. And he'll only need 1 Earth Gem. So it's not like a huge investment we're doing. And all these items for Ulm are like 1 gem. So this is like a total of 6 gems of items and 1 gem. So this is like 7 gems. Okay, and what do we have Iron Warriors, Legions of Steel. So Iron Warriors, Legions of Steel. This guy's going to do their thing. And then he's going to do attack, advance, and cast spells. And if this doesn't murder this stupid elf, then we can declare the elf victorious. Because God knows he's killed a lot of dudes. Uh-oh. He was in the wrong spot, but we have an Earth Elemental. I forgot to put this guy near him. But we have this guy on advance and cast spells, and he's going to do Earth Meld, which will hopefully get this thing popped. And now with Glamour popped... Oh, the other thing to say about the Van Jarl is because he's Heir 2, he does get a better Glamour than the Van Hers. So that is one thing he's got in his camp. And if you're going to be putting items on dudes, because of that reason, you do want to use the Van Jarl. Oh, but he's got a shit ton of regen. Oh, Earth Meld, there we go. So that is how you do it. Now, I think this is... I mean, look, there's a lot of ways to kill elves, guys. But the elves can also change up their kit. They can be rolling around with not just thugs, but also small armies. But this is the calculus a good anti-elf player is going to do, and they're going to figure out what works and what doesn't. But I think this also demonstrates some of the annoyingness of fighting elves, which is how much thought, guys, did I put into when I was playing Vanheim of putting gear on this guy and sending him out? Like how many... Okay, he's dead. But how much time did I spend thinking about what gear I should put on him and building it? How much time did I spend making that bless? It took me like a tenth of a calorie of energy to think about that. Like it was nothing, right? It was just like a flicker of thought. And you can see how annoying it was to kill. And for new players, like if you're fighting new players, this is what I was saying about a new player lobby, is a lot of them don't have the depth of the game knowledge to even know the right questions to ask to figure out how to deal with it. And they're going to get run over and stomped. So a good player is going to figure out economical counters to counter raid and take stuff back from you. And it can be really simple. Like, I'll show you a few more things that Ulm can do, because it doesn't have to be super complicated. These guys are pretty good so these are good against elves, but they're cap limited. So I'm not going to show you those. We're going to show you with just these. But you're going to have to use a fair amount of mage turns. Okay, we're going to have to make another elf kit. We'll do another super elf. It has built-in regen, so he's not even done after. And this, by the way, would be killing this. Whenever you kill an elf with this much gear on him, you've actually done real-life morale damage to the elf player. Okay, on Ulm's side, we're going to get a few of these idiots. Now, how many we get exactly, I actually do kind of care about. I think what I want to have is I would like to have 12? Not 3 times 4. Yeah, I think 12. And what we're going to do is we're going to... So this has no thug gear. We'll just use the normal mages. This... I think this is fine. There's sometimes we're not going to get a very long buff cycle on these guys, which is what I'm sitting here thinking about. You know, what are the spells we're going to do? But we're probably going to have to use multiple mage turns. And this is one of the things that sucks about getting raided by elves is... you are often, to kill elves, you're going to have to spend a correspondingly larger amount of mage turns to kill them, is what I have found. Like, they're going to be using, like, you know, if they're going to use 20 mage turns to attack you, you're going to have to use like 40 or 50 mage turns to defeat them. Okay. Hold an attack closest. And then this guy... I think the most important thing... This guy's doing the thing. Okay, the most important thing for these guys is we want Strength of Giants on them, and we want Iron Will on them. In fact, we want Iron Will so much that all this guy's going to do on his script is pump out Iron Will. Because I don't care if they die, I just want them to kill the goddamn elf. And if we spread these guys out, they should not get attracted. Hold an attack rear. Okay. I'm pretty sure this will also kill the elf. Here we go. Maybe not. That was a really long battle, which does not bode well for us. But my thinking here is the Earth Elemental should break Glamour. Oh no, he gets stuck. Oh no, he gets stuck. Sometimes this happens. What a retarded Earth Elemental. Okay, and he got killed. Yeah, it could have gone a lot better if the Earth Elemental wasn't on, like, extremely large amounts of narcotics. But we scared off the elf. And there's a very good chance that the elf would have died in retreat, and there's a very good chance we would have killed him, especially if he was surrounded by these dudes while these guys were on advance and cast. And anyway. But yeah, that is basically... elfery, but so let's do closing thoughts now, because I think it's time to wrap up. Closing thoughts are, you can see the amount of sweatiness you make other players do when you are the elves. They have to do all this sweaty planning, and the way to really throw a wrinkle in it is you don't do the same goddamn thing. If the elves start rubbing their brain cells together, and it's not always the elf thug, sometimes it's air elementals, sometimes it's the thug with gear, sometimes it's like 4 thugs, sometimes it's the thugs with lightning support. Sometimes it's a boatload of vans. Sometimes it's, the whole freaking Doom stack with, full mage support and everything. Anyway, there's just a bunch of different... The more you mix it up as the elves, the harder it is to do this sweaty scripting where you survive. However... if you're on the other side of the elves and you're fighting them and you do the sweaty scripting, all those precious gems that those elves put into making that gear, that can all be yours. But you can see, it's a game. It's a game. You have to guess what they're going to do. You have to come up with economical counters. And you have to win. And that is the challenge whenever you're fighting the elves. So, how do you win a game with the elves? Well... I think the key advantages of the elf are most people don't like fighting them because it's so goddamn frustrating. So diplomacy is normally reasonably easy if you're playing the elves. What are the other benefits? You can gain huge amounts of land very, very quickly, and it's very difficult for players to react. And there's also a number of things in the game like assassinations and seductions, which you can dodge with stealth. So having mostly stealthy stuff is great. They have good late mid-game timings with a lot of the morale plays and a lot of the evocation stuff they can do. However, they have major weaknesses. They don't have the best research economy, and they don't have the best, most cheapest mages later in the game. And so you can get overwhelmed by somebody who has better mages with better technology, and, they're just going to overwhelm you on the field. And, the fact that your Vans have 20-something defense, that can start to matter less as, huge protection buffs come out, and the battles start having way more mage support. So yeah, it's a kind of funny game. When you're playing the elves, you're trying to cheese them and they're trying to cheese you back. It's not a lot of very honorable fighting. But that's basically it. So what is middle-aged Midgard? It is a middle-aged elf nation to the T, perhaps more elfy than even early-age Vanheim, which otherwise is maybe the most elfy nation of them all. So go out there, make some people hate you, play the elves, and tell them I sent you. I'll see you next time.